We have all made choices in our lives that we feel are best for ourselves. These could be as simple as what to have for dinner or as life-changing as choosing where to live or where to go to school. Unfortunately, the ability to make these types of choices isn't the same for everyone in our society, and often people don't have choices like these available to them. This can often lead to individuals making choices that, to an outside party, may be seen as negative, demeaning, or detrimental. More times than not, these choices have to be made by marginalized groups in our society, and often these choices can lead to situations of oppression. This, however, sets up a paradigm where people of the dominant group see the choices made by those in marginalized groups and assume that because they have made these choices, then the oppression does not exist. As stated in the textbook Is Everyone Really Equal by Senso and D'Angelo, they state that the discourse of choice diverts our attention away from structural oppression by placing responsibility wholly in the hands of individuals. Therefore, instead of focusing on the structures that facilitate oppression, we focus on the people choosing to participate in the oppressive act. As stated by Ann Cudd in her article Oppression by Choice, people feel that they are compelled to act as they do by the unavailability of their other options. For our digital story, we are examining the common rebuttal that if choice is involved, it cannot be oppression. Our stance on this is that oppression can exist with choice, and often is influential in the perceived choice. We will be examining this through the life of Jane Roe, a black woman from a working class family. We will discuss how the intersectionality of Jane Roe's class, race, and gender have influenced the choices available to her throughout her life.
When Jane began elementary school, she was a happy, confident child. Over time, however, her spirit was dampened as she faced race-related incidents. Other children would touch her hair without asking, or sometimes they would exclude her from play. Although Jane was very intelligent, some of her teachers would make her feel as if she was incapable by acting surprised if she did well in her tests, and never challenged her with harder work. Jane was aware that others thought she was not very smart because of her race. This led to a self-fulfilling prophecy where she would feel so much pressure to do well that it negatively affected her performance and her confidence lowered. Her grade 8 teacher suggested she take applied level courses in high school.
Jane Roe had dreamed of being a doctor, but due to her struggles in school, she did not get the grades or classes she needed to apply for a medical path at university. Her dream is not dead, though. With hard work and a good school, she could work her way towards her dream. After applying to many schools, Jane got 2 acceptance letters. The schools that accepted her were the Shelley Institute for Women, an excellent school with a flawless reputation that would put her on the path for her dream. The other school was the Tampton Community School, a local school with a poor reputation but close to home. While Jane wanted so badly to go to the Shelley Institute, it was far away and would require her to support herself much more than if she stayed in her hometown and went to the Tampton, which might endanger her dream of becoming a doctor. In the end, Jane decided to gamble on her future, and with all the support her parents could muster, she went to the Shelley Institute. Her first year there was amazing, more than she could ever have imagined. Unfortunately, while her parents did all they could for her, Jane needed to work to help cover her bills. Unfortunately, the second year was much harder than the first, and with having to work and dropping all of the social and extracurricular activities she had been doing just to scrape by, Jane became so stressed that she failed her finals. Not seeing any hope, she dropped out of the institute and went back home. After a year of rest and working to save some money, she went to Tampton, and while she was successful there, she was not accepted into medical school.
Upon entering the workforce, Jane encountered more barriers on her route to success. Though in her youth she grew accustomed to androcentrism, the premise that the male experience is the standard experience for society and that the female experience is a deviation from that norm, from the textbook page 85, it still presented her with various challenges. After talking with her male peers, she found out that she was making less money than them. Upon asking her supervisors about this discrepancy, they felt it was justified because the men had advocated for higher pay, while Jane did not. As a black woman who has been chastised for raising her voice with comments like, "That's not how women behave," and held to a higher standard than most because of her skin color, for example, feeling like she has to be a model minority and not being allowed to show emotion for fear of further racialization, Jane is baffled by the response of her superiors. She feels that she is always in lose-lose situations. If she speaks up, she risks backlash from her superiors, but if she doesn't, the systems of oppression keep working against her. Jane is given choice, but just because she has a choice does not mean the forces of systematic oppression are asleep. As Sensoy and D'Angelo state, oppression need not be personal, and intentions are irrelevant in terms of having privilege and advantage. Even if there was no malice or thought to Jane's sex or race in relation to her pay, androcentrism is baked into our society, and the norm of the interview process was tailored to the male experience. People who were taught to be louder and more dominant, generally men, were rewarded with more money than people who were taught to be submissive and subservient, generally women. As such, Jane is at a disadvantage in her place of work, undervalued and underheard.
After hearing about Jane Roe, we want you to think about the choices she had to make throughout her life. How much control did Jane have over the choices she made? How many of her choices were influenced by the oppression she faced? We hope that this short presentation highlights that the ability to make choices isn't the same for everyone, and that the choices people have available to them are often influenced by the structural oppression present in our society.